Life can be difficult for people, but there are some who choose to make it even more so. Would you consider leaving your family and living the life of a monk? Or, stranger still, would you survive without food? What if you stopped using money or even making friends? Believe it or not, there are people on earth who either choose to lead a bizarre life or are compelled to do so. What makes people get such wacky ideas to lead unusual lives? Is it boredom, a desire for change, or is it some sort of self-realization of a meaningless life? Then again, there are those afflicted with mysterious conditions forced to adopt ways of life that you may find astonishing and hard to believe. People with strange diseases that make living a normal life impossible. From the woman who lives only in water to the man who actually quit eating, we're going to show you 12 people who live a strange and unusual life. But be sure to carry on watching till number 1, because that's where you'll get surprised. Woman lives in water for 20 years. Imagine living with a disease that leaves you permanently inflamed and sore. When even the air playing on your body causes you pain, how would you feel? That's exactly how Padharuni Ghosh from West Bengal, India, lives her life. In 1998, the 65-year-old woman was diagnosed with a strange and mysterious disease that left her body badly inflamed, painful, and sore. For the last 20 years, she's been suspended 12 to 14 hours submerged in a lake near her home, all because it relieves her from pain. Too poor to get treated in a hospital, Ghosh gets up at the crack of dawn and walks to the lake, where she submerges herself up to her neck and remains there till sunset, because only water can take away her pain. What a horrible way to have to exist. The world's dirtiest man. How many days can you go without a bath? How would you feel living with dirty fingernails and sweaty skin? Meet Amu Haji, the world's dirtiest man. Haji from Iran is 80 years old and harbors a strange dislike for soap and water. He just can't stand it. What's clean for us is something horrible and dirty for him. Haji feels comfortable living in the filthiest of conditions and has no problem. Haji, who lives like a recluse in the desert areas of Iran, winces at the thought of taking a bath. The man whose body is caked with dirt is looking for a lady love to share his natural surroundings and eats rotting porcupine meat for lunch and dinner. When asked when was his last bath, the man grins through dirty teeth, revealing 1954. Well, at least he's got a great sense of humor, and the ladies love that. The man who lives in a canister.
Polio is a horrible disease. I cannot move.
Could you imagine living your life 24 hours strapped into a metal submarine, paralyzing you of life as we know it completely? Meet Paul Alexander, a Dallas lawyer who has spent his entire life trapped in one, a victim of the endemic disease that has confined him for life to this ungodly metal prison. Dallas, now 72, lies paralyzed in a metal lung, where few exist still today, keeping the victims of paralytic polio alive. Dallas is a grim reminder of a disease that gripped the entire world, becoming even worse than the Black Plague. While iron lungs do not exist anymore, there are a few like Paul Alexander who are resigned to this metal prison for life, just so that he can breathe. Man living in a sewer for 20 years.
At first glance, you might think this man is in the sewer in Medellin to carry out repairs.
Would you consider living in a sewer, complete with family and furniture? Meet the human sewer rat Miguel Restrepo. Miguel is a rehabilitated drug addict who's been living in an abandoned sewer in Medellin, Colombia, with his wife and dog for an unbelievable 22 years. Believe it or not, but Miguel has adapted to his unusual lifestyle by carving out a neat little home in a sewer. In an area that's just 3 meters wide, 2 meters deep, and 1¼ meters high, Miguel has fitted a stove, an oven, a bed, and even a television for his entertainment. Here's one man who won't need a doomsday shelter, as he already has one. A man raises his arm for 38 years. Speaking about people living unusual lifestyles, could you ever go through life with one hand raised above your head? Think how painful that would be. not for Mahant Amar Bhattiji from New Delhi, India. You see, this man is a spiritual yogi who once worked as a clerk, renouncing the world in 1973. He decided to keep his hand raised in obeisance to Hindu god Shiva and has never put it down ever since. In 1970, he renounced his family and friends for his own religious beliefs and decided for a lifelong penance of keeping one hand raised above his head as a symbol of his devotion. It's been 47 years, and Amar has yet to put his hand down. Man who refuses to cut his hair for 50 years. What if you stopped cutting your hair for the rest of your life? Check out a male Rapunzel, a man who stopped cutting his hair for a very strange reason. Trey Van Hay from the Kiên Giang province of Vietnam felt that cutting his hair made him ill. Unable to face the trauma of a haircut, Van Hay decided to stop getting one and growing his locks like Rapunzel. He hardly ever shampooed his hair and kept it wrapped for 25 years. Van Hay, who was recently declared the man with the longest hair, revealed his dreadlocks for the first time and looks more like a boa constrictor instead. The Indian mystic who hasn't eaten for 70 years.
Could this man hold the key to survival under extreme conditions?
Could you ever go through life without eating at all? If you think that's not possible, then meet the Indian yogi Prahlad Jani, who hasn't eaten a meal for 70 years. This is a weird and strange story if there ever was one. This man claims he's not had food or drink for the last 70 years. So, what does he live on? Love and fresh air could well be a possibility after scientists researched him and were baffled to find indeed he just did not eat. Observing the man round the clock, scientists found Johnny wasn't just going without food, he didn't even urinate or pass a stool even. Now that's a huge mystery for which the experts have no explanation. The longest living conjoined twins in history.
It's one of the most unusual birthday parties you will ever see. Ronnie and Donnie Galen are the oldest conjoined twins in the world.
While living an unusual lifestyle may seem strange and bizarre to many, for Ronnie and Donnie Gallion, life is even stranger still. The brothers are the world's longest living conjoined twins, in spite of several odds that went against them. Statistics say only 5% of conjoined twins survive birth, and those are mostly female. This makes the Gallion brothers nothing short of a miracle. And get this, they're now 66 years old. This means they aren't just the longest living twins in the world, but also in recorded history. Both Ronnie and Donnie, joined from the sternum to the groin, live comfortable lives and have learned to adapt to their deformity. Man who lives alone on an island. Would you agree to saying that no man is an island? Would you in fact like living on an island alone, at one with nature and no humans around? As tough as it sounds, there are people in the world who just love the very thought of living alone, like Mario Morandi, who lives alone on Buduli Island between Sardinia and Corsica. It was chance that brought Morandi to the island after his catamaran failed in 1989. Depressed and upset with life, he liked it so much, he ended up accepting the job of the island caretaker and has been living there alone for the last 30 years. Before we move on, I've got a little challenge for y'all that'll take only 5 seconds to complete. So, here's the deal. You just leave a like on this video, follow us, and mention a friend in the comments, and you'll get 10 years of amazing luck. Try it. It really works. Girl who lived in a bowl.
19-year-old Rama Haruna has lived almost her whole life in unbearable pain.
There are bizarre conditions around the world that can astonish you, but nothing can be as mind-boggling and overwhelming as that of Rama Haruna from Nigeria. Believe it or not, but Rama lived in a bowl, and all because her body stopped developing. The girl was born a healthy child, but once she turned 6 months old, her body stopped developing. She lost the use of her limbs and had to be placed in a bowl to remain upright. Throughout her painful life, her condition worsened, and doctors were baffled as to what was wrong. No amount of medical intervention could save Rama, who succumbed to her mysterious and unusual condition at 19 years old. Man who lives alone in the Arctic. Living alone on an island seems lonely enough, but what if you were made to live alone in the loneliest place on Earth, the Arctic? surrounded by nothing but ice. Living in the Arctic with not a single color of nature to look at except white endless sheets of ice might make you lose your mind. But for Slava Korotký, it's all in a day's work. Korotký works and lives in the Russian weather post in Kodovraika, North Russia. The man has no assistants or family and lives alone. He's also been the subject of documentaries that have recorded how he lives his life in the Arctic alone at an outpost which is hours away from any civilization. The man who quit money.
My name is Daniel Suelo, and I haven't earned or spent a single cent in 14 years, and I live totally without money.
You've seen men who quit social life, men who quit eating and drinking, but what would you say to a man who quit money? Money, they say, makes the world go round, but could you survive without a payday? It may sound impossible, but meet our number one on this list, Daniel Suelo, who did the unthinkable and denounced money 20 years ago. In 2000, Suelo simply emptied his pockets of his life savings, $30 to be precise, and left it in a phone booth. Since then, he's lived without a cent and says he's found a new freedom and security he never thought possible without money. Known as the man who quit money, Suelo doesn't even pay taxes, doesn't accept welfare, and lives in the wild canyon lands of Utah, surviving off the land for food and shelter. Surprisingly, though, he enjoys it and says it feels spiritual. So, which one of these people has fascinated you the most?